Welcome to Mindset in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Mindset in Stone podcast. Today, we're doing a deep dive into an absolute classic, a foundational text on personal achievement and success philosophy, Unlimited Power. This book is, it's less about just motivational theory and more. It's like a detailed operating manual for your nervous system.
That is the perfect way to put it. For anyone looking to get massive results, and quickly, this material it's fundamental. The author just cuts through all the noise with a really simple core message. Success is the ongoing process of striving to become more, of continuously expanding what you're capable of, and the ultimate currency that funds all of that expansion is just one thing: action.
Right. And we hear it all the time that knowledge is power, but the source material just challenges that right out of the gate. It argues that knowledge by itself is only potential power. That stack of articles you've saved, that book on your shelf, or even what you absorb here, it means absolute nothing until you translate it into specific, consistent behaviors.
Real power, the kind that actually changes your life or the market, is the ability to act, to produce the results you desire most, and crucially, to create value for other people while you're doing it. You can have perfect theoretical knowledge, but if you lack the behavioral ability to mobilize it, you're running on potential, not performance.
So our mission today is really to unpack the ultimate success formula and the core technology of change that's in this book. We want to give you the precise tools to convert that potential into tangible, real-world excellence.
Okay, let's get into this blueprint then. It all starts with, I think, the most foundational insight of all. The quality of our life is determined fundamentally by the quality of our communication.
But that definition goes way past just talking to clients or, your colleagues.
Oh, absolutely. It's a complete shift in perspective. The sources define communication in two really critical intertwined forms. First, there's internal communication. This is that constant running commentary inside your head, what we picture, the way we talk to ourselves, the internal sounds and the feelings that result from all of that.
And then the second part is external communication. So our words, our tone of voice, facial expressions, our whole physiology when we're interacting with the world.
And this leads us to the crucial realization that gives us leverage over our entire emotional life. See, most people believe that how they feel is a direct, unavoidable result of what happens to them. Some external event happens, and that causes an internal state.
But what the book stresses is that how you feel is solely the result of your interpretation of that event.
And that's the profound takeaway right there. Nothing has any meaning except the meaning we give it. The power is entirely in your hands because you're the one assigning the interpretation through your internal communication.
So if a rainy Monday makes you feel depressed, the rain isn't depressing. It's your specific internal representation, like a gray, slow-moving internal movie paired with some critical self-talk. That's what's generating that feeling.
Exactly. So if we accept that responsibility, we become the directors of our own internal movie set. If you are experiencing an unresourceful state, you literally created and produced that scene by choosing a specific physiological and internal dialogue script.
The challenge then is learning to manipulate the things you see and hear internally to produce the external results you actually want.
This mastery of internal focus and physiological control is what separates the excellent from the average. And it leads us directly into the reliable, consistent path that people who get outstanding results follow. It's called the ultimate success formula. And this is our practical takeaway 1.
I love this formula because it's beautifully simple, but it demands, ruthless commitment to actually doing it. Step 1, know your outcome. Vague goals get vague results. You have to define precisely what you want in sensory-specific detail. If you don't know the exact destination, you can't plot the course.
Then step 2 is the big differentiator. Take action. And not just cautious action, massive action. Like we said, action is the key commodity. People who succeed don't wait for perfect conditions. They just start moving immediately and often.
Step 3 requires some humility, some objectivity. You have to develop sensory acuity, which means developing the acute skill of recognizing the responses and feedback you're getting. Are you getting closer to your outcome, or is the universe telling you that your current path is, not working?
And this is where so many ambitious people fall short. They're great at step 2, taking action, but they fail to look up and read the results. If a sales pitch fails over and over, you can't just keep delivering the same pitch with more intensity. Which brings us to step 4, develop flexibility.
If the response you're getting isn't what you need, you have to change your approach. You keep changing it until you find one that works. Successful people are relentlessly flexible in their strategies, constantly refining and adapting based on that feedback they're observing.
And beyond this 4-step formula, the sources also highlight the fundamental inner qualities that sustain this path. The text details 7 traits of success, which is like the inner fire that you have to cultivate inside yourself.
Yeah, these are the foundational character traits that allow the formula to work again and again. They include things like passion, which provides the energy, the juice for life, belief, which acts as the fuel for taking that massive action, and strategy, which is just the way resources are organized effectively.
You also need clarity of values, knowing what truly matters so your actions are aligned. You need energy to seize opportunities, rapport, and bonding power, because let's be honest, few massive successes are achieved alone. And finally, mastery of communication, which we've already said, is the ability to influence yourself and others.
And these aren't just personality traits, right? They're like muscle grooves you can consciously decide to strengthen.
You got it. And strengthening these traits starts with mastering your internal world, which brings us to the pivotal concept of state control.
Okay, so let's define what a state is. A state is the sum of millions of neurological and physiological processes happening inside you at any given moment. It's your total current experience. And why is this key? Because your behavior is the direct, instantaneous result of the state you're in.
Just think about the complexity of choice for a second. The decisions you make about your diet, your finances, your relationships, when you are in, say, a fearful state, are fundamentally different and almost always less resourceful than the choices you make when you are in a state of confident enthusiasm.
And most people just let their state be dictated by the weather or traffic or the last email they read. Excellence is achieved when you consciously put yourself into states that support your goals, no matter what's happening outside of you.
So how do we get that conscious control? The sources explain what's called the cybernetic loop. Our state is basically engineered by 2 components working in immediate lockstep. First, internal representations, what and how we picture, say, and hear to ourselves internally. And second, physiology, our posture, our breathing patterns, muscular tension, and movement.
And the loop is critical because they operate synergistically, don't they? If you change your internal movie, your representation, your body instantly reflects that change.
It does. But more importantly, and this is where we gain the real leverage, if you immediately change your physiology, your internal representations and the emotions that go with them must follow suit.
Right, because changing your internal self-talk can sometimes feel like a battle against these really entrenched habits. So the fastest and most reliable way to shift your emotional state is through physiology. This is our practical takeaway too. Use physiology as the biggest lever.
Think about the physical requirements for an unresourceful state, like deep sadness or frustration. You have to adopt a specific posture. Shallow, weak breathing, shoulders rolled forward, head down, very little movement. You literally cannot feel crushed disappointment while you are standing tall, breathing deeply, and smiling genuinely. The body won't allow it.
That means if you want to feel confident, you have to actively adopt the physiology of confidence. You have to act as if you already felt resourceful and powerful. Change your posture, your walk, the expression on your face, and you're basically forcing your nervous system into that desired state.
And within the domain of physiology, the material introduces a very specific strategy for immediate and profound state change. It's derived from natural hygiene principles, and it's called the breathing strategy.
And this is our practical takeaway 3. Implement the 1.4.2 breathing ratio. The ratio refers to the counts for inhalation, holding the breath, and exhalation. You inhale for 1 count, you hold for 4 counts, and you exhale for 2 counts. So if you inhale for, say, 4 seconds, you would hold for 16, and then exhale for 8.
And this isn't just a relaxation technique, it's a cleansing mechanism. That long exhalation is essential because it's the primary way the body eliminates toxins, specifically through the lymphatic system, which is activated by deep breathing. The prolonged hold maximizes oxygenation and kicks off that cleansing process. By practicing this ratio, even for just 10 cycles, you can dramatically improve your body's chemistry, your health, and your emotional state almost instantly.
So if we can successfully identify and manipulate the internal representations and the physiology of a successful state, we can move into one of the most powerful concepts for accelerated achievement, which is modeling excellence.
Modeling is the idea that success leaves clues. You don't need decades of trial and error if someone else has already laid down the blueprint. The material suggests that if you precisely duplicate the belief system, the mental syntax, how they organize their thoughts, and the physiology of someone who consistently gets outstanding results, you can reproduce those results in your own life.
And this goes way beyond simple imitation. The sources, which draw heavily on the co-founders of NLP, are very specific that you have to replicate those three ingredients precisely. First, the belief system, the certainty the person holds about their ability to succeed. Second, their mental syntax, the specific internal sequence and organization of their thoughts. For example, a great negotiator might always picture the final agreed-upon handshake before they even detail their opening offer.
And third, the physiology, the specific way they use their body and their breathing to maintain a peak state throughout their performance. By reverse engineering these three elements, the beliefs, the internal process, and the physical approach, you can save years of experimentation. Modeling is essentially finding the exact recipe for excellence and then applying it in your own kitchen.
This idea of belief being a prerequisite for excellence brings us to the very foundation of sustained performance, the certainty we hold about ourselves and the world.
Beliefs are. They're far from passive ideas. They're powerful, direct commands delivered straight to your nervous system. To illustrate this profound connection between mind and body, the source material recounts this chilling example of the hypnotic blister.
This is a powerful, almost terrifying concept. In a demonstration, a person under hypnosis is told that a piece of ice touching their arm is actually a piece of red-hot metal. When the ice is removed, the person develops a real, observable blister on their skin. Reality, the fact that it was only ice, was completely irrelevant. The direct, powerful command delivered by belief was all that mattered. It literally overrode biological reality.
So belief, therefore, is simply a feeling of certainty that governs our behavior. If the nervous system believes something to be true, it responds as though it were true. The birth of excellence begins when we realize our beliefs are not facts handed down from on high. They are fundamentally a choice. We can choose limiting beliefs, or we can choose empowering ones.
And this choice sets up a dynamic, spiraling process. If you operate from a limiting belief like, I'm not good enough at public speaking, that belief taps into limited potential, which causes you to take tentative, half-hearted action, which results in predictably dismal results. That outcome then just confirms the original limiting belief, and you're in a powerful downward spiral where failure breeds more failure.
But the reverse is the engine of high achievement, a powerful, certain belief. I can master this skill with enough effort, taps into massive potential. It inspires massive, enthusiastic action and leads to affirming success. That success then feeds the belief, creating an upward spiral of momentum.
So to jumpstart that positive spiral, we need to proactively adopt beliefs that empower us, even if we initially have to act as if they were true. The source material calls them the 7 empowering beliefs, even humorously acknowledging that their ultimate truth is less important than their supreme usefulness in creating action and results. This is our crucial practical takeaway for adopt the 7 empowering beliefs.
Let's dedicate some time to really unpacking these, because they fundamentally reprogram the commands that are sent to your nervous system. Belief number 1 is, everything happens for a reason, and it serves us.
This isn't about passive acceptance. It's about focus. It means training your mind to focus on the possible lessons and opportunities hidden inside any challenge. The book uses the incredibly powerful example of W. Mitchell, who survived 2 horrific, life-altering accidents that left him burned and paralyzed.
Mitchell could have chosen despair, but he chose advantage. He realized that while he couldn't change the facts, he could absolutely change their meaning. He leveraged his story, his tenacity, and the resulting public profile to become an influential figure, even running for Congress. He didn't just cope with tragedy, he used it. He used it as the seed for a greater benefit, which illustrates the principle that every adversity contains the seed of an equivalent or greater advantage.
Okay, belief number 2. There is no such thing as failure. There are only results. This is such an essential reframe. We have to replace the toxic word failure with the neutral, objective word outcome. Every outcome, whether it meets the initial goal or not, provides essential feedback.
Think of Thomas Edison. He famously had thousands of attempts before perfecting the light bulb. When asked about all his failures, he said, I have not failed 10,000 times. I have successfully found 10,000 ways that will not work. Or look at Abraham Lincoln, who lost numerous elections and faced continuous personal defeats before reaching the presidency. These weren't failures. They were learning experiences that refined his strategy and his character.
Belief number 3. Whatever happens, take responsibility. This might be the most empowering belief of all. If you don't take responsibility, you fundamentally believe you're a victim, at the mercy of outside circumstances. But by taking responsibility, you affirm your control over your world.
Responsibility doesn't mean it's your fault that something unexpected happened, but it does mean you are responsible for your response. A core tenet in the book is that the meaning of communication is the response you get. If you communicate an idea and you get a hostile response, you don't blame the other person. You immediately assume responsibility for having generated that response, and you adapt your communication until you get the outcome you want. That is true control.
Belief number 4 is great. It's not necessary to understand everything to be able to use everything. Successful achievers are time misers. They prioritize application over endless study.
Right. We waste so much time trying to get a PhD-level knowledge on every topic before we take the first step. You don't need to know the entire history of electrical engineering to flick a switch and get light. You just need to extract the essence, the actionable steps, and use it. Mastery is often born from immediate, applied action, not exhaustive research.
Belief number 5. People are your greatest resource. Individuals of excellence universally show tremendous respect and appreciation for people, and they're skilled at cultivating teamwork and synergy.
Yeah, the material references the findings of In Search of Excellence, noting that while one brilliant, isolated person can achieve a lot, they can rarely match the cumulative power of an effective, passionate team driven by a common purpose. Japanese business philosophy, for instance, often prioritizes long-term relationships and mutual respect over short-term transactional gains, because they understand that synergistic power multiplies results exponentially.
Number 6. Work is play. This is about bringing curiosity, vitality, and total immersion to what you do. When you truly love what you do, the effort required doesn't feel like a burden.
As Mark Twain allegedly said, the secret of success is making your vocation your vacation. When you're fully engaged and you're experiencing flow, the time you put in doesn't drain you. It actually energizes you. You want to cultivate an environment where you are drawn to the process, not just the eventual prize.
And finally, belief number 7. There's no abiding success without commitment. This is the inner fire that binds the entire success formula together. It means WEIT, whatever it takes.
Commitment means burning the bridges behind you. It means eliminating the option of retreat or failure. When you commit absolutely, your nervous system stops allocating resources to planning an escape route, and it focuses entirely on solving the challenge at hand. If you adopt these 7 empowering beliefs, you provide yourself with an unstoppable psychological scaffolding.
Okay, now that we understand the foundations of state and belief, let's explore some advanced tools for precise behavioral and communication control. Let's start with the structure of our experience. Submodalities.
Submodalities are the most precise, the smallest elements that make up our internal representations. They're the structural building block of every thought, every memory, and every feeling. We're talking about qualities like, is that mental picture in color or black and white? Is it big or small? Is the sound loud or soft? Is the feeling sharp or dull?
So why does this matter? Because changing the content of your thought, what you see, can be hard. But changing the structure of your thought, the submodalities, is instant leverage. If you have an unwanted, nagging internal dialogue, you don't argue with it. You just mentally turn down the volume, make the voice sound cartoonish, and push the source of that sound far away from you.
Manipulating these instantly changes your state because your brain responds to the structure. For example, things that are stored as big, bright, close, and associated, meaning you see them through your own eyes, they typically feel more intense and urgent. Things stored as small, dim, far away, and dissociated, where you're watching yourself, typically feel less urgent and less emotional. By changing these qualities, you gain command over your experience. You can turn a frightening memory into a neutral, distant movie clip.
This precision work leads us directly to a really powerful behavior change technique, the swish pattern. This is our practical takeaway 5, a tool designed to automatically link old, undesirable triggers to new, resourceful states.
The swish pattern relies on speed, neurological conditioning, and repetition. It's an exercise in mental gymnastics designed to override old habits. First, you identify the image of the undesirable behavior, that moment of temptation or the limiting action. You make this image big, bright, and associated, so you're right there in the image.
Second, you create your ideal desired self-image, a magnificent picture of yourself after the change has successfully happened. This image should be small, dark, and dissociated, so you're watching this powerful new you from the outside.
Then comes the whoosh. In less than a second, the small, bright, desired image explodes outward, destroying the old image and replacing it completely. The speed is critical. It has to be lightning fast, like the flash of a camera. You repeat this sequence 5 or 6 times, clearing your mental screen briefly between each one.
The power of the swish pattern is that it conditions your nervous system, so that when the old trigger appears, your brain is automatically conditioned to call up the new resourceful image and the associated behavior. It just overrides the old habit without conscious effort. You've short-circuited the old behavioral loop.
Okay, let's shift our focus now to external communication. So, handling resistance and achieving precision in dialogue. We have to start with the small words that can derail a connection.
The number one word that creates resistance is the three-letter word, but. When you say, I respect your opinion, but, you effectively negate everything you just said, and you're signaling conflict. To maintain rapport while still guiding the conversation, the sources introduce the agreement frame.
This is practical takeaway 6. Use the agreement frame for alignment. The frame uses 3 phrases. I appreciate Andy, I respect Andy, or I agree Andy. By replacing but with and, you acknowledge the other person's reality, you maintain rapport, and the and allows you to introduce your idea or desired change without creating that immediate psychological resistance.
For instance, instead of just dismissing an employee's concerns, you could say, I appreciate the intensity of your focus on this project, and I think if we look at the logistics from a different angle, we can meet the deadline. You're respecting their intent, you're maintaining alignment, and you're opening the door to a strategy change.
Next, we have to talk about the tool for achieving true specificity in communication. It's called the precision model, or as I like to call it, the ultimate fluff buster. Our language is just full of generalizations, deletions, and distortions, vague guesswork that masks sensory-based reality.
The precision model is a map of specific questions designed to break through that fog and get the underlying specific information you need for action. Let's look at the 3 common linguistic traps and how to handle them.
First up are generalizations. These often use universal quantifiers like always, never, or every. If someone says, they never appreciate my work, you repeat the quantifier back with emphasis. Never appreciate your work. Who, specifically, has never appreciated your work? This forces them to confront the specificity, and it often reveals the statement is untrue or it only applies to one person.
Second are deletions. This is when information is simply missing from the sentence. Someone says, I am scared. Scared of what? The question to play the deletion is always of what specifically or who specifically. Getting specific transforms a vague emotion into a manageable challenge.
And third are distortions, particularly nominalizations, which are processes that get turned into nouns, like turning to relate into relationship or to decide into decision. If someone says, I need to fix my problem, you turn the nominalization back into a process. How specifically do you want to start solving? This forces them out of the abstract noun and into actionable, sensory-based steps.
Yeah, mastery of the precision model is essential because vague language leads to vague results. If you can't communicate what you want in sensory-specific terms, you really can't achieve it.
And building on this, the ultimate way to communicate effectively is to understand the other person's meta-programs. These are the unconscious, habitual filtering patterns people use to sort the world. For example, are they motivated by moving towards something like gaining pleasure or achieving goals, or moving away from something like avoiding pain or preventing loss?
If you're leading a team and one person is strongly moving away, you'd motivate them by explaining the potential problems they'll avoid if they execute your strategy. But if another person is moving toward, you focus on the benefits, the rewards, the achievements waiting for them. Using the wrong motivational language is like trying to use a key in the wrong lock.
Finally, let's discuss the conscious creation of powerful emotional triggers, which is anchoring. We are constantly being anchored by life. The smell of a specific meal, the sound of a certain alarm, or the feeling of walking into a certain room can instantly change your state.
An anchor is simply a sensory stimulus linked to a specific state. The goal here is to consciously create positive anchors so you can summon resourceful states, confidence, focus, creativity on command without having to wait for the right external event to happen. This is our final practical takeaway 7. Anchor success states.
To create a powerful, reliable anchor, you need 4 key elements, and you have to adhere to them rigorously. First, intensity of the state. You must be fully immersed, completely associated, and congruent in the peak feeling you want to anchor. Don't anchor a weak feeling of sort of happy.
Second, timing. The stimulus, the physical trigger, has to be applied at the absolute peak of the experience, just before the feeling starts to diminish. Hitting the peak creates the strongest neurological connection.
Third, uniqueness of stimulus. The trigger must be a clear, unmistakable signal that you don't just encounter in daily life. It shouldn't be a simple gesture like touching your ear, but a specific combination of physical action, pressure, and maybe even a sound.
And fourth, replication. You have to fire the anchor exactly the same way, using that unique touch and intensity multiple times while you're in that peak state. This is called stacking the anchor, and it makes the link between the stimulus and the state robust and automatic.
Yeah, the material suggests a simple confidence anchor exercise. You stand up, vividly recall a time of total, undeniable confidence, put your body into that physiology, and at the absolute peak of that feeling, you make a unique fist and say yes, with strength. Repeating this stacking exercise ensures that whenever you make that unique fist, your nervous system instantly accesses that feeling of total confidence.
And that brings us to the close of our deep dive. We've covered the power of action, the control we gain over our states through physiology and internal representations, the dynamic nature of empowering beliefs, and some really advanced tools like the swish pattern, the agreement frame, and anchors.
If you apply even one of these principles consistently, you'll experience what the material calls the processional effect. Imagine two airplanes leaving the same runway, headed for the same destination city thousands of miles away. If one plane is directed just 1 degree off course, the difference is it's imperceptible in the first few minutes.
But if you follow that slight trajectory change for hours, the planes will land hundreds, maybe even thousands of miles apart. That is the processional effect. Tiny changes in direction, a commitment to massive action, a belief you adopt, a state you utilize. They create massive, world-altering differences in your trajectory over 5 or 10 years.
So what are the primary roadblocks that trip people up, even people with this knowledge? The sources identified 5 major challenges that have to be mastered for continued success.
First, you must learn how to handle frustration. So many people treat frustration as a stop sign, but it's just feedback that your current approach isn't working. Success is often buried just on the other side of what feels like massive frustration. Change your submodalities and strategies, but never quit on the outcome.
Second, you must learn how to handle rejection. The greatest challenge is accepting the word no. If you anchor yourself correctly, you can choose to turn the word no into a positive trigger, a signal that you're now one step closer to finding the yes. Transform rejection from a debilitating force into an exciting opportunity.
Third, you must learn to handle financial pressure. The only way out is conscious, purposeful financial management. The solution is pretty clear. Learn how to earn well, to save diligently, and to give generously. Purposeful money management removes that emotional pressure that can destroy your confidence and focus.
Fourth, you have to learn how to handle complacency. Comfort is the enemy of growth. The moment you settle and stop striding, you begin to decline. Ray Kroc, the builder of McDonald's, said, "When you're green, you grow. When you ripen, you rot." Never stop growing. Judge yourself by your goals and your potential, not by the static comfort of your peers.
And the fifth key, arguably the most powerful one for true happiness and lasting meaningful relationships, is this. Always give more than you expect to receive. The source material really emphasizes that the secret to living is giving. You have to give first and keep giving, because the ultimate lasting power is derived from creating value for others.
Ultimately, the power we've talked about, the power of state, the power of action, is synergistic. It comes not just from individual supremacy, but from people working together.
And that leads to our ultimate challenge for you, the listener. Find a team you want to play on, one that demands excellence. This could be your family, your community, your close friends, or your colleagues. Surround yourself with people who will never let you settle for less than you can be. Association is one of the most powerful forces that determines who you become.
Your greatest gift to yourself is a commitment to association with people who challenge you to be a leader, who demand that you apply these tools every single day. The real test of this deep dive isn't whether you thought it was an interesting conversation, but whether it inspires you to act. I challenge you, starting today, to use these principles as a personal handbook and step onto a life trajectory that makes the greatest dreams of your past seem almost trivial. Be a doer and make your life a masterpiece.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.